Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul McMillan, and I am the ABC Parent Champion for Cincinnati Public Schools. On behalf of our Board of Education and our Superintendent, Ms. Laura Mitchell, we would like to welcome you all to our district-wide virtual parent meeting. I am so excited to have you on tonight. We have a plethora of information and topics that we're going to cover, all based off of feedback that we receive from parents. So again, welcome. In a short a short survey that everyone can fill out, maybe about 2 or 3 questions. It'll be very much appreciated if you can fill that out so that we get your feedback. 2, at the end of the broadcast, we'll have a question and answer period. That is the time that we've carved out for all of our parents' voices to be heard. Your engagement is very much appreciated and important to us. And 3, when you ask your questions throughout the broadcast, so at the end of each presenter, we'll allow all of our parents and all of our attendees to use the raise your hand feature to ask some of the questions. We'll take about 3 questions after each presenter. Please use the raise your hand feature. I'll now be sharing my screen. Cincinnati Public Schools Strategic Plan, a roadmap to Cincinnati Public Schools. Student-centered decision-making, health and safety, community engagement and influence, optimized capabilities, and growth. Student-centered decision-making, we put our students first. Students are able to learn anytime, anywhere, including outside and in the evenings. Students have the new course offerings and experiences, including career pathways in each high school, African American literature, history, additional AP courses, and life skills in earlier grades. A Speak Up and Speak Out collaborative is at every high school. Diversity and inclusiveness are a part of our DNA. Health and safety. We focus on personal well-being. We elevate students' social, emotional health, and physical well-being to support student learning. Our high school schedules are healthier for our teenagers. We are empowered by our communities with community and engagement influence. Our communities feel heard. Our communities feel heard and valued. We measure success from a perspective of families. English language learners and families are fully integrated district-wide and at schools. We expand the resources available to families. Our families, students, and staff are the best ambassadors. Optimized capabilities. We get better. CPS is a destination for top talent. The science improvement is how we work. We have a model that allows for learning anytime, anywhere. Our budget process prioritizes CPS core work. Students, our school staff spends more time with students, teachers, and families, and less time on operational functions. Growth. We are community's first choice for education. We are our community's first choice for education. We retain students from preschool through graduation. Our environments are conducive to innovation and learning as we grow. Now we'll go over to one of our presenters. We have several presenters tonight based off of feedback from our parents. Our first presenter will be from Health and Safety Department, Safety Cindy, and her name is Cynthia Egbalnia. Cynthia?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Paul. And really great to be here with everybody today, to be in front of you again. I am the Environmental Health and Safety and Workers' Comp Administrator for Cincinnati Public Schools. And you can see here, next slide is fine, next slide. You can see here, I've got only a few key points that I'd like to update you on or provide reminders. and then be able to answer a few questions that you might have. So next slide. So first, I know that in the past I've spoken before about how fortunate we are with having our local health partners, our community partners, and the Cincinnati Health Department under the leadership of Dr. Melba Moore is certainly needs to be highlighted, and was highlighted this past Monday at our board meeting night, where the board was presented and passed a resolution thanking the City of Cincinnati Health Department for their services that they provide us, their collaboration with us. And I thought it's so important. You may have seen the board meeting, but I thought it's so important to re-highlight it here for all of our parents, because it's fundamentally important with this collaboration that they provide us and what they've allowed us successfully to do within our schools. So just to highlight a few things. Again, I felt it was really critical to highlight this for people who may not know, but with the city health department's assistance, which they have a nurse, we have a nurse, a city health department nurse in every single one of our schools. With their assistance, we are the largest school district in Ohio to open in-person instructions in October 2020. That was a phenomenal thing that was able to occur. And so we were the largest school district in Ohio, and one of the only largest city school districts in the country to do so. So just, again, an incredible heavy lift for everybody. We also, with their assistance, implemented on-site student testing at every single one of our schools. That's on-site student testing, which means the student can be tested either on-site or by appointment, and within 24 hours, usually before that, very quick turnaround time to be able to allow the process of identification, notification, cleaning, etc., to be done for that infection control. It's plays a pivotal role in our process here at the schools. We were also the first district to offer vaccines to our employees back in January, where we were able to start at the end of January and then have almost 70% of our staff vaccinated. So other things that they've done is certainly meet with us on a timely basis, daily, sometimes twice a day, to go over key situations that are occurring and just look at what is evolving within our school district. Certainly a very important thing to highlight. So next slide. So I mentioned vaccinations briefly. Staff vaccinations happened starting at the end of January, where we had 70% at that initial vaccination offering. So certainly we have more than 70% now of staff vaccinated. So on April 20th, when the CDC expanded their COVID-19 vaccination eligibility to 16-year-olds and up, our local health partners met with us, planned, and provided our first vaccine pod, and it was actually at Western Hills High School early in May, so I think it was May 7th. Also, when CDC announced recently on May 12th that the vaccinations were now going to be made available to 12 and up, we had already been in meetings. We were able to, with our partners, set up pods, point of distributions, at 16 or 17 locations for our students that are 12 and up. And this happened this past Monday and Tuesday. So less than 2 weeks after this was made available through CDC, we were able to provide those pods and access to our students. So very exciting, and we look forward to the continued rollout of additional point of distributions for our students and our staff. So we certainly thank you to our partners, Cincinnati Health Department, Cincinnati Children's Hospital and Medical Center, and TriHealth, because all three of those helped us provide those 17 schools with pods. So I put a link here for additional opportunities in case people are looking for those vaccine opportunities, and they're becoming certainly more available, whether it's a local health department or community locations. We certainly want to get that word out. So very exciting. Next slide. So as we look at what the fall looks like, right? As we're looking at summer scholars, as we move forward into the fall academic year of 2021, I know the question is, what do our safety protocols look like? So listed here are the typical customary ones. We all know these, right? So what are those safety protocols going to look like in the future? We are holding meetings now with our health partners in June to discuss what our plan looks like for the fall. And I wanted to highlight that these will depend on what those current guidelines are, and we see those guidelines changing as they're very fluid. They change, and as they change, we need to incorporate those changes based on our meetings with our collaboration with our local health partners. It will take a little bit of time to be able to identify how we're going to incorporate those into our policies that go across our district. Both CDC and ODH have announced recently that they will be providing updated guidance to our schools in the upcoming weeks. Like, that's within weeks. So certainly understand that as this guideline provides some availability to us for updating our own policies and procedures, that it will take time to incorporate those changes into what we have across the district. What I have highlighted here at the bottom is just a little example of that. On May 13th, CDC rolled out their mask guidance for fully vaccinated people that allowed, individuals not needing to wear masks after if they were fully vaccinated. And then that was adjusted a few days later to include the fact that schools should continue to use current guidelines that they have in place for mask wearing. So again, it's a very fluid environment, and as we incorporate those guidelines, we appreciate your patience and your nimbleness to be able to work with us on that. Next slide. Just as a quick reminder on some of our resources, we've got our parent website, which is on our back to school website link. We have the COVID-19 dashboard, and I've gotten the most recent picture as of yesterday, and a few other links there, or reminders as far as where those resources are for COVID within our buildings. So that's what I have for you tonight, and we'll be happy to take questions either now or at the end.
Thank you, Safety Cindy. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a few questions. That way we won't have to, our parents and guardians won't have to wait to the end to ask all of their questions. So we'll take a few questions. We'll take the first person. If you can go ahead and let the first person in that's asking that needs to ask the question. If you could, parents and guardians, when you jump on, please say your name for Safety Cindy.
Kari Kinkle, she's up. This person is up for their question.
Hello, Kari. Kari, are you there? Okay, William, we may just need to move to the next question, please. And then you can allow them to say their name once they jump on. Next question, please. Good evening, can you hear me? Hello? Okay, William, we may need to move to the next question. Can't hear that parent. It's just a lot of noise in the background. Parents, if something's wrong with your phone, you can always come on and use the raise your hand feature at the end of the broadcast. We will have a question and answer period at the end. Are there any more questions at this time, William?
No, sir.
There is one in the Q&A. Could vaccinations be required for students for the 21-22 school year in the same way that other vaccines are required to attend CPS schools, with the appropriate exceptions, of course?
Sure. So that's an excellent question, and one which I know our school is looking at as far as, is that a possibility? How would one do that? And that's a question that is certainly being looked at. So we don't have an answer for you now, but that's something that is being looked at not only by our school, I'm sure, but by many K-12s and universities. Can that be a requirement? So getting the vaccine is certainly plays a pivotal role in minimizing the infection transmission. So certainly a good question, and is something that we're being looked at.
Thank you, Safety Cindy. Is Kari still on? We may want to try Kari one more time.
No, sir.
Okay. All right, we'll move on with our broadcast, and I'll share my screen for the next presenter. Our next presenter will be from our curriculum department here at the Cincinnati Public School Board of Education. Curriculum math manager, Miss Dr. Don Williams.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, families. I am so excited to be here to represent the Curriculum and Instruction Department, and we are so excited about the Summer Scholars Program. This is not the summer school of yesteryear. This is a reimagined Summer Scholars Program, and we're so excited about it. Next slide, please. Our Summer Scholars Program will run from June 2nd to June 30th. Students report on June 2nd. Students will have an opportunity to accelerate their learning in mathematics and reading. We are really focused on those critical skills necessary and that knowledge at each grade level. The students will have an opportunity to sharpen those skills necessary for that upcoming grade level. And for the first time ever, families, community, we heard you. You wanted to make sure that our students had an opportunity for some social emotional learning, and we have included that in our Summer Scholars Program. And also each day in all of our buildings, students will have an opportunity for mindfulness, movement, and meditation breaks. And at some of our schools, they will have supports from our community mental therapists. Next slide, please. So what does the day of our Summer Scholars look like? And this is just an example. On the right is Carson Elementary, but all of our buildings, pre-K to 12, will have a morning academic block where they will focus on those social, emotional learning supports that I just talked about, and those are weekly lessons. Also, our core curriculum, ELA Math, and our science and social studies, as well as fine arts, will be embedded in our weekly theme ELA courses. Also, we are so excited about our afternoon enrichment blocks, and Ms. Casey Fisher will talk about those in a moment. Next slide, please. So what about this thing called social emotional learning? How are we embedding that in our program? Every week, our students will build their skills around these 5 SEL core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, responsible decision-making, as well as relationship skills. Next slide, please. So what can you expect if you have a preschooler coming to Summer Scholars? I won't read everything. We also have links to the grade levels, so if any parent would like their own copy of this, please reach out to Paul, and I can send him that information. But for preschool, they're going to have language and literacy with a theme about music around the world, We're going to explore the arts and social studies and science. And again, social emotional learning is in everything that we're going to do in Summer Scholars. And families, guess what? For preschool, you may be invited to share your musical interests and talents during the month of June. Next slide, please. In elementary, focus on ELA, and again, with Wit and Wisdom as our core curriculum for ELA. They are weekly themed units for students in mathematics. We're really going to focus on those skills and that knowledge necessary for our students to return to the upcoming school year ready to go and excited about mathematics. There are enrichment opportunities every single day. And again, Casey Fisher is going to talk about those. What I really want to also highlight at the bottom is our recovery services. That is targeted interventions that are going to be provided by our intervention specialists or related service providers. And so recovery service will be implemented at the same time as Summer Scholars. Next slide, please. So middle school has the same format with our ELA, but each particular grade is focused on those critical areas of focus, those big bucket knowledge and skills necessary for that particular grade. And what we really want to talk about when we talk about the academic blocks, we really wanted, and you all told us this, that students need additional time and space to learn. That with all the things that happened this year, that was not enough time. So that's why we are having Summer Scholars. Next slide, please. And for high school, those students who need additional time and space to earn their credits from this school year, they have an opportunity to do that. At the high school level, we have our core content areas, ELA, math, science, and social studies. We have fine arts, we have world languages, and again, we also have support from recovery services. Next slide, please. We are so excited about our afternoon enrichment, and the amazing Casey Fisher is going to talk about that.
Thank you so much, John. I am so super excited about what is to come for Summer Scholars in that afternoon enrichment space. Our schools have worked really hard in collaboration with our partners to create something very energetic that is also going to support the academic AM portion of the day. So there are things that are happening. I've seen martial arts, I've seen gardening, cooking clubs, STEAM activities. And so our students will definitely be able to still enjoy their summer as part of Summer Scholars. And so this is definitely happening in the afternoon. Students have an option of activities at some spaces in which they attend. Some other schools have things that the students will rotate through, art classes, music experiences. I know we're also partnered, I'll call a few out, with Biokoto Cultural Dance and Theater. I'm really excited about that connection through Summer Scholars, where students will learn how to drum. They'll see and learn cultural dances. We have some of our other partners who are our tried and true partners that are always there to assist us providing athletic and sports activities like ABC, YMCA, Families Forward, Grad Cincinnati, and so they're all partnering together and working with our schools to create a summer camp experience. And so I'm really excited that the students will be able to engage in that space. I believe that they'll also be able to take home activities and things like that to do with their family, that they can bring back and share out. And so I'm really expecting an awesome time in Summer Richmond.
Thank you, Ms. Casey Fisher. Thanks, Dr. Don. And now we'll take any questions. I'll stop sharing for a second, and we'll take any questions that parents or guardians or our community members may have. All right, if someone has questions at the end during our question and answer period, then we'll come back to you. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat, or no one has their hand raised. So we'll continue moving on with our meeting. Our next presenter one second. will be one of our partners that we really heard a lot from you all. We got a lot of feedback. We heard your voices all year long. This is our partner that is POSSIP, and POSSIP is every 2 weeks. It's a pulse check, and basically what it is a short survey that just asks how parents were feeling all year long. So without further ado, we'll bring on the Experience and Support Manager, Miss Caitlin Churchill.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for contributing your voice to the POSSIP Pulse Checks this year. Paul, you can go ahead and move to the next slide. Over this entire school year, CPS heard from over 14,000 unique family members in almost 40 languages. So that's 15% of all feedback that was provided in languages other than English and translated for schools. We love that so many families felt empowered to share their experiences with their authentic voices. And we thank you for participating and sharing your thoughts and insights. You can go to the next one, Paul. Great. So when we ask you the question, are you happy with your experience with your school this week? We receive all of those comments, and our team of reporters who are also educators and principals and ex-educators, they've been in the system for years, they categorize every single one of your comments, all of your praise and your feedback. And we put this in reports for schools, and we highlight certain comments that need follow-up. So we, out of all of the thousands and thousands of comments we got from 14,000 people, 3,000 of them were also highlighted as recommendations for follow-up. And school and district leaders used all of the feedback that came in to inform decisions, communication, and to develop their teams, and also to connect back with you parents to share what they've been learning. And sometimes this is through phone calls, sometimes this is through newsletters, but a lot of times this information is just used to inform decisions and to help their team really use your input as they make key decisions and communications. So to talk about the very first trend, I'll give you 4 trends today about what was heard through these pulse checks this year. First, it's praise for teachers and school staff. And this is true across the board with all of the schools that POSSIP works with through the United States, and also true for Cincinnati Public Schools. It's praise for teachers and staff members. To put it in perspective, in all of our data, for every one piece of feedback that we received 8 praise comments for teachers. And the word teacher occurred over 20,000 times, and the most frequently used word besides teacher was great, and then thank you. So when looking at CPS praise for the year, we're so excited to hear that you parents supported your teachers and your schools so greatly. And you can see some of those powerful quotes there. Unlike any other year, parents really acknowledged how hard everybody was working and gave a lot of really balanced information, both praise and feedback. And we just really love this, and thank you parents for doing so. There were other trends in the feedback as well, and we'll talk about those next. So if you want to move to the next one, Paul. There were requests for communications about operations, a lot of which people are talking about today, which is so fantastic. And also parents asked for more information around academic support, which is something we saw across the country. Just, as things change, as virtual learning changed, it's a whole new learning around academic progress. And then also a lot of requests and around technology needs. So those were kind of our 3 trends that we'll dig into. And first, I'm going to talk about communications on operations. So parents asked for more information and communications about operations and logistics. And we want to acknowledge that this was a year across the country because we do work with over 26 states and tons of schools and districts, 600 schools in all. We want to acknowledge that there was a high percentage of feedback around operations in general, so not just specific to CPS. But parents use POSSIP to talk about operations more than any other category. 45% of all praise and feedback was operational based. So what does this mean? What were parents sharing? It showed up in topics like feedback and options for reopening and having a sense of the district's plans and really staying in touch with those changing plans. Parents really wanted that. Also, parents spoke about keeping pace with the ever-evolving COVID safety protocols, which is why it's so wonderful you have Safety Cindy, who's always doing that with you. They sought information about summer school and summer scholars, which was talked about today, and then express needs and desires for transportation and just the different situations needed around transportation. So it's worth sharing that communication also falls in this bucket of operations and logistics, and communication in itself is huge. So just to let you know a few specific things that parents were talking about and seeking out, we asked our reporting team to kind of summarize, what does that mean? Communications is huge. And they said things like a communications hub that stays updated, wanting communications in advance, wanting to have a clear idea of calendars of events and consistent schedules and easy information online, as well as just good outreach from districts and schools. Parents also wanted to really know and be able to support their students' academic growth. So Paul, if you want to move to trend number 3. And what we found here, and you can see some of the comments, and of course there are thousands others, these just represent some of the big ideas, is just that as we moved to virtual learning, folks were really wanting to stay in touch with new ways of tracking academic support. And what we find is that for CPS specifically, parents asked for more one-on-one help and tutoring for their students, and also for questions around academic remediation after virtual learning. And we saw this across the entire country as well. So know that these are feelings shared by parents everywhere, and we really appreciated being able to put that in front of your schools and be more specific about your needs. Then for trend number 4, we've seen that in all schools, amongst all families in the world, there are, of course, more and more barriers and obstacles multiplied in difficult times. So when things get more difficult in the world, more and more barriers and obstacles will surface in feedback. And we love that POSSUP is a way for you to share vulnerabilities and needs. So food needs, technology needs, clothing needs, health needs, all kinds of needs came up, and some were really critical, and we were able to elevate those really quickly. But technology needs was a big trend, as you might imagine. It makes a lot of sense. And just to kind of highlight some topics around that, we just saw that CPS families were voicing that they needed support with internet and computer access, help logging into different technology platforms, and then overall tech support during virtual learning. And now, as we end the school year, some families across the country and some in CPS are asking, what to do with equipment that was loaned to them, and just how to move forward with some of the supplies that were provided and some of those needs that were met. So we hope that these 4 trends give you a sense and an idea of the types of feedback that families shared. Not only can it be helpful to hear this kind of overview so that you know that you were heard, and you know that your needs and your desires to be heard over certain things are shared with other parents. And so it's great that we can provide the really specific comments from every single family member that provided, but it's also nice to take a moment to step back and to see the overall trends. And just as a reminder, schools within CPS are so different. So of course, some of these trends may resonate and some may not. So we love for you to just reflect and think what really resonated with you personally, and do you feel heard in these overall trends? If not, don't worry, your specific data was also provided and your specific quotes were provided. Know that we'll be texting and emailing parents next year asking about your experience too. So look for that text when school starts up next year, and you'll have opportunities to share throughout the whole year. And these are the types of things you can share along with anything else that is on your heart. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Caitlin. And we do have a few questions. Before we jump to the questions, I would like to say to make sure all of our parents, guardians that have kids in Cincinnati Public Schools, one critical thing to do every single school year, or as much as you can, if you change phone numbers, if you switch addresses, if you change email addresses, uh, please contact the school and make sure that your current contact information is always updated. That's one of the critical ways. That's one of the biggest ways that we are able to get all of the information out to you all. Obviously, we have the website and all the different social media pages, but we definitely want to continue to email and send text messages and things of that nature. So we'll go to our questions, and the first question is from Virginia. Virginia, can you allow Virginia in, please? Virginia, are you there?
I believe she left the chat. She was in, and then she left.
Okay, is Corey the next person would be Corey? Corey, are you there? Right. So we'll come back to Corey. And remember, if you're having some sort of technical issues, if you jump off and then jump back on, it's always a question and answer period at the conclusion or the end of this broadcast. So let's try Miss M. Miss M, is Miss M still on? Can we allow Miss M in to ask her questions, please?
Kari is in right now.
Okay,
Hi,
Corey, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. I had tried earlier and then there was an issue with the technology, so I switched to my child's computer and then I actually ended up putting it in the text and then it's let me through. But my question was, with the Summer Scholars Program, does that count like back like when we were younger, like summer school was sort of remedial, was seen as that. It was to make up a grade or to do this sort of thing. Does the Summer Scholars Program still count for that though too? If a child has had issue with grades and needs either to have the grade corrected, like you take that course, or does it add to them for the following year? I'm not sure if I'm asking that correctly, but do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes, Dr. Don, can you field that question for us, please?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Hi, Kari. So it depends on the grade level. Really, what you all wanted, what the parents wanted. We really designed this program about what you told us you wanted for your children. So what you wanted was additional time and space for
Yes.
students to learn more deeply. If you're talking about high school, those credit granting grades, it is an opportunity for those students to have additional time and space to earn that credit. So it really depends on the grade level. But yes,
Okay.
they do have an opportunity, but overall, it's all about our students having an amazing learning
It's very
experience.
holistic. Yeah.
Go ahead, Kari, I'm sorry.
No, it seems very holistic, and even as you guys presented this, some months ago in the board meeting, it felt that way. But I was wanting the clarification that they're not mutually exclusive things. It's both.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
both being able to fix the grade or the lost credit, if you will, and then also the other pieces as well. So I needed the clarification. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you, Dr. Don. Is Miss M still available, Will? Miss M?
No, sir.
Okay, let's go to the question from Royal Black. Royal Black available to ask their question?
They were just in.
Are you there, Royal Black?
Yeah, they're in right now, Paul.
Okay, Royal Black, go ahead with your question, please. Good evening.
Hello. Well, I'm Roy Black's dad. My name is Quincy Black. So my daughter, she just graduated kindergarten today. My question is, I wanted her to attend the summer school program to see if, not to see if, but to like prepare her for kindergarten. So I was just wondering if that will be, is that possible?
So just for clarification, she graduated the preschool program today?
Correct.
Okay, she graduated the preschool program today. You're asking if your daughter can now go to the kindergarten for summer scholars.
Correct.
Okay, Dr. Don, can you?
So, Mr. Black, did your daughter attend a CPS preschool?
Ma'am, she was at John P. Parker, but I just currently moved about 2 weeks ago to the North College Hill area. So that was another question I wanted to know. Is it any schools that would be recommended for her to attend?
So one of the experiences that we are trying to offer with summer scholars, and I keep saying it over, is that additional time and space that students will have with their current teacher. So the program is, that's why I asked you, did they attend, your daughter attend a preschool, a current CPS preschool? Because we want them to continue to build their relationship with their current teacher as opposed to having that transition right now, if that makes sense to you.
And that was another thing that I was worried about because I really enjoyed the learning that she was getting at John P. Parker. But I had moved from that area. So now I was just wondering what school would be recommended for her to attend in the area that I'm in now.
So I think that's the other part of your question is, since you changed locations, what's her next school based on your location as well, outside of summer scholars? Is that your question also?
Mr. Black, are you still there?
Yes, that is another question.
Mr. Black, if you call CPS, ask for, you can say Summer Scholars or Dr. Don Williams, and give me a call, and we'll support you through this transition.
Okay.
Mr. Black, I'll just add, we definitely want to keep you all in the district, so we definitely will find out. We'll find the school that's closest to where you live and make sure that we get your daughter back enrolled and make sure that she stays enrolled in one of the Cincinnati public schools. So thank you, Mr. Black, for your call. We don't have any more questions that are waiting right now or hands raised. So we're going to move on.
My bad, Paul.
You have another one?
Miss M is in.
Okay, Miss M, good evening. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you doing today?
I'm well.
Awesome. So I have two kids, one in Rising Stars, and I have one in the second grade going to the third at Gamble Elementary. And I was told last week, I just found out about the summer enrichment program, and I was just told last week that he can't get in it. And I was just wondering if he can go to a different school, or how does that work? Because I would love for him to get a little bit more, because he did fall off a little bit from where I wanted him to be.
Okay. Dr. Don, can you grab that question, and then we'll take one more, and then we're going to continue to move along in the broadcast. We still want to allow time for all of the presenters to make sure we get all the information out, and then still have that time where parents' voices can be heard at the end. So we'll take this question, and then we have Drew that is waiting. We'll take that question, and then we'll move along. But Dr. Don?
Yes, Miss M, because I will need a little bit more information to accurately answer your question. Can you give me a call tomorrow? 363-0598.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to jump over to Drew. If you can let Drew in. Good evening, Drew. Are
Hello.
you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, and thank you for having this. I had a question about the nurses and the way the collaborative agreement between public health and CPS is working. Our original school nurse is no longer with us, and we miss her terribly. She was awesome. And the new nurses are not, it doesn't feel like a permanent part of the building, and there's not that same culture. And also, when kids are sent to the nurse now, even with something very minor, everything is construed as COVID and they get sent home immediately for a week. Like, even if it was just like I coughed while I was eating a piece of popcorn. And so there's a lot of confusion about how the nurses work, and if you need a trained nurse, if they're just going to send everyone home no matter what, there's no like real diagnosis going on.
Okay, so safety, Cindy, can you respond to Drew's question?
Yes, absolutely. Do you see me? Am I there?
Yes.
Okay, good. I was just typing this long answer to your question, so thank you for coming on. And I appreciate the question. The nurses are placed by assignment annually, through Cincinnati Health Department. I'm not sure what school you're at, but I'll put my phone number in the box in my question or my answer, so you can call me and kind of discuss more if you have additional questions. But the assignments certainly are adjusted year to year depending upon who's available and what spots are opened and who was there before. It depends on what, like, I don't know if you guys had a school nurse or if you had a school health assistant. They operate slightly differently, but certainly certainly striving for an effective situation for both the parents and the employees is what we strive for that engagement and fulfillment in their jobs and their tasks. This is certainly a very difficult situation, challenging relative to COVID. And with respect to your question of if somebody goes to the nurse with X, Y, or Z symptom, it is specifically directed to the nurses, and they can't do anything other than what they're directed to do, and that's send the student home if they have any of those symptoms whatsoever. And they are very, very cautious. So I understand that comment, and again, we can take it offline, but the nurses are responding per their instructions based on the Cincinnati Health Department, CDU, Ohio Department of Health, with very specific responses to those what is viewed as health symptoms. And again, I hear you, but I'm happy to talk further offline if you would like.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Safety Cindy. So I'll jump right back in. I want to share my screen, and we're going to move to the next presenter. Hello. Did Tisha take over? No.
Hey Tisha, if you can hear me, something happened with Paul's internet connection. So can you please move on to the next slide in the presentation?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, I think that is me. I don't think my video is showing. I'm not sure what's going on, but I am Meg Burrows. I am a school social worker as part of the Positive School Culture and Safety Department, and I am very excited to talk to everyone. I was having some technical problems before, so can somebody just let me know if you can hear me? William, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Okay, can you see my video?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just want to know if I'm like picking my teeth or anything. Awesome. So thank you guys. I am so excited to see so many parents and families and caregivers on this call. As I said, I am Meg Burrows. I'm a school social worker. Oh, great. Thank you so much. I am part of the Positive School Culture and Safety. We are a small but mighty department, although we are growing in size. We have our director, who is Dr. Carrie Bunger. We have 37 school social workers, 19 attendance support specialists, 2 senior supports, 1 CFT liaison, and a PBIS school psychologist. So we are one of the newer departments. We are about 3 years old, and I am excited that Paul is letting me talk to you guys tonight. If you could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. I am going to talk a little bit and just tell you what our department does, but really what I would love to hear is feedback from parents and our caregivers. We want to know what's going on in your schools. We want to know how school can be a more positive experience for kids, and we'll get to that a little bit. Our 5 buckets of work that Positive School Culture and Safety focuses on is our culturally responsive PBIS, and I'm going to primarily focus on PBIS for the most part of my couple-minute presentation. Social emotional learning, we also call that SEL, and I want to thank Dr. Williams for highlighting that so much in the Summer Scholars program, because we are also very excited that that's a piece in what your kids will be learning about this summer, as they do all school year long. We also are focusing on the restorative approach to discipline, assessment and accountability, and truancy prevention. So these are our 5 buckets of work. And if you could go to the next slide, please. A big piece of this is PBIS, and that's what I kind of want to focus on tonight. So what is PBIS, you say? I'm sure everyone's out there asking. So PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. It's a framework for promoting positive behavior in students and positive school climates. So this isn't one more program, this isn't one more thing that's going on in the school. This is really looking at the school as the culture, the environment, and using this framework to set really everything up, how your kids enter the building, how they greet people, how adults act in the building. It's all part of PBIS. So it's a set of agreed upon expectation, rules, and rewards. So when we talk about expectations, we talk about things like, what we want to see, what we want to hear, what are some expectations for the cafeteria, what are expectations for walking in the building. And we always want to state these in a positive way. So we call them expectations and not rules, because rules are meant to be broken, and our kids are very smart and they're great at breaking rules just like adults are. And that's why these are expectations. This is how we want our kids to act. This is how we want our adults to act. And that's how we set it up. And we like to set it up as what is this going to look like? What is this going to sound like? So if I go back to the cafeteria example, what does a positive, calm, but lively cafeteria look like? What does it sound like? It's kids are walking, kids are talking in a moderate voice to their friends. They are staying seated when they are eating their food. So those are the expectations that really we have in place. So you'll notice the difference. We could have said no talking loud. We could have said no running. We could have said, don't do this. But really we focus on using those positive rules when we set our expectations. So these positive adult behaviors support the positive student behaviors. And it's a certain language that we use. So we teach all the adults in the building how to use that positive language. So why do we do this? Well, because really it works. PBIS creates a calm and positive environment where all students can be successful. And we really focus on that, all students. We want every single student that come into our building to be successful. And we want them to know what those expectations are. We want them to know what they're expected to do so that they can do it, because we know all of them can. PBIS also increases the learning time, attendance, and achievement, which is what we all want for our kids. And it reduces disruptive behavior. So it keeps kids in the building, it keeps kids in their classroom learning with their identified teacher. It gets them coming to school, and it increases achievement. So PBIS is something we're super excited about. We've been doing it for a long time in CPS, but we did have a kind of revitalization of it a couple years ago, which we were very excited about. All right, if you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so really, how can you be involved in PBIS? First, you can talk to your child about what their school expectations are. Some examples that you might hear about are maybe be safe, be trustworthy, be accountable, be responsible. A lot of times they'll spell something out. So like SOAR, or so the S, the A, the O, the R will stand for something. Ask your child's school the school to see their PBIS plan. Every school has a PBIS plan. These are submitted to the district. We go over them. We have point people throughout the district that really help schools with their plans. This might be in the student handbook or on the website. So ask to see this plan. Things that are in the plan included who's on the committee, what those expectations are, what the discipline plan is. So kids, adults, everyone knows this is the expectation. If the expectation isn't exactly followed through, then what might be the discipline? What are some options? How do we reteach the child? How do we reteach the class what the expected behavior is? Another way you can do is ask your child's teacher or principal or other supports about PBIS and what those positive behaviors are. So how are they taught? So what does it sound like? What does it look like? What do hallways look like? What does after school dismissal look like? What are they expecting to see out of all the students and the adults in the building? And then if you want to be more involved in PBIS, let your school know. We're encouraging all PBIS teams to have a parent on their team, on their committee. This is a great way to be involved. It's a great way to get some input. It's also a great way to know what's going on. So these PBIS plans should be sent out every year. If it's not, then ask for it and be involved in it. Another way you can be involved in PBIS is to create a home PBIS matrix. So what expectations do you have for your children at home? What do you expect them to do? I have 2 of my own, and I know it works a lot better if they know the expectations ahead of time. So they know they're expected to get up in the morning, get dressed, get their breakfast, get ready to go out the door as we all rush around getting ready for the morning. So I have an example of this. If you want to go to the next slide. Thank you. Forgot, it's a couple down, but we'll revisit that home matrix. So as we were thinking about this, and I always like sort of a conversation, it's a little hard on this platform, but think about how can your child's school be a more positive place? what would it take? What can the school do? What can the teacher do? What can the district do to make your child's school a more positive place? And then how would you like to be involved in PBIS? And we really do want to hear from you. So if you go to the next slide, my number is a lot bigger on the next slide, but as well as my email. So we want to hear from parents, caregivers, families. How would you like to be involved? What input do you have? And parent involvement looks different for every single person. One person may feel comfortable being part of that PBIS committee. Somebody else might feel comfortable just sending me like, hey, what do you think about this? Or what can you do this? Or here's an idea I have. And we really want to invite that big realm of parent involvement. So this is my number. I will say Friday is my last day before summer break. So email might be a better way for me, but you can always leave me a message. I am great at getting back to people, and we really want to hear your comments. So if you want to go to the next slide, it's my home matrix. So this is an example of a matrix. So this is one for home. So what are your expectations? Getting up in the morning, getting to school, cleaning up. What's homework time look like? Does homework time have the TV on? Does homework time, some kids that works for, does homework time, is it quiet? Are supplies out? What does that look like? What does it sound like? Here on the side, we see an example. We have help out, own your own behavior, and manners count. So this is just an example. I think it's a fun way. One of the best ways to set up a home matrix is to do it with your kids. So talk to them. What are we expected? What does this look like? And kids are the best at coming up with what these expectations are. So I just want to thank you guys. Any questions you have, I'd love to answer them now or at the end. Any comments, you're welcome to give them to me now. I can write them down. And I hope to really be part of this conversation in the future and talk to as many parents as we can to make school a positive place. Thanks so much, Paul.
Thank you very much, Meg. My apologies, everyone. I had a bad connection here at the Ed Center, but I'm back now. Happy to be back. We're going to go to some questions for Meg or any other questions that our parents may have. We have someone waiting, Sibu. Is there Sibu there? Can you let Sibu in to ask their question, please? Good evening, Sibu. Are you there?
Yeah, they were in, and then now they're not. I'm gonna go back and see if they accepted their invitation. Oh no, they haven't accepted their invitation to interact yet.
Okay, is there anyone else waiting to question?
No, sir, not at the moment.
Okay, if not, Tisha, if you can go ahead and pull the presentation back up, we'll move to our next presenter and our final presenter before we hear strictly from our parents. We'll be moving to Mr. Jeff Crystal. Mr. Jeff Crystal is from our Information Technology Department here at the district. And without further ado, Jeff.
All right. Thank you very much, Paul. There we go.
Yes.
Good evening, everyone. Pardon? All right. Good evening, everyone. It's terrific to be in front of everyone this evening. My name is Jeff Crystal. I am the Director of Device Management for the district. I'm here to talk to you for just a few minutes about our device strategy and processes for the summer. So most of us were around last year, and it's hard to believe how different this year is from last year. But last year at this time, we were trying to figure out how we were going to get 35,000 devices into the hands of about 35,000 students. It took all summer, but we did get it done. At the end of that effort, we were at a point where every student now has a device, and we call that a one-to-one initiative, and we are continuing that initiative. So in that vein, I'm going to talk about how we're going to handle the devices and support of those devices over the summer, and then as we cross over into the new year. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so it's really pretty simple, everyone. I mean, this school year, we gave devices to all of our students. Students in preschool through grades 1 were issued an iPad. Students in grades 2 and above were issued laptops, the Lenovo Yoga laptops. What we want students to do is to hang on to those devices over the summer, to use them for summer scholars, summer enrichment, and other support services, so that they have a device to use for the course of the summer for their enrichment. However, if students are not planning to return to Cincinnati Public Schools in the fall, in other words, if they're graduating this month, this week, we certainly want those students to return their devices to their school. If you know that your student or child will not be returning to Cincinnati Public Schools, it would be the same thing. We're asking to please return the device to your school before leaving for the summer. I did make a note here. So graduating students must return their device prior to or shortly after graduation. There's a note here that if devices are not returned by graduating seniors, they could be assessed fees for their devices that are not returned, or if they're returned with intentional damage. If devices are damaged, and this is the way we do business all year long, for accidental damages, the district handles that. I've got break fix contracts, and we've got other programs that pick up the costs for that. But it's a different story if the device is intentionally damaged. And fortunately, that doesn't happen very often. I have heard from a few teachers and from a few parents and guardians that ask me, what if the family does not wish to have their student keep the device during the summer? They're concerned about the well-being of the device or what have you. If that's the case, then they can just return the device to their school before they leave for the summer. And then when they come back in August, we will issue them a new device. Next slide, please, Paul. Okay, as I said, so all preschool through grade 1 students have iPads. So the first grade students who are currently finishing up first grade, we want them to hang on to their assigned iPad for the summer. When school begins in August and they return and they become second graders, we will then swap their iPad with a laptop. That process, as we develop it, will be communicated ahead of time, but it's going to be something that takes place at the school. It will be very easy to implement. Next slide, please, Paul. All right, so what I wanted to mention here is that as a part of all the effort we did last summer to issue devices to all students, we also formed something new called the Family Technology Support. So we now offer family technology support, which is at that number, 513-363-0688, for any device issues. That's right now, every single day that the Family Technology Support is open and operational, and we field calls from students and families all the time. That support will continue to exist, of course, over the summer. So if your student has any issues with their device over the course of the summer, call the Family Technology Support. A very nice representative will talk to you, and we will make arrangements with you to coordinate a drop-off of your broken device, and then we'll issue you a new device to replace it. And typically we can do that within 1 business day. So it's a quick turnaround. Just a final note, and this is, so really in the course of the summer, it's no different than during the school year. We want students to abide by policies that are listed in what we call the AUP, which is the Acceptable Usage Policy, and the Mobile Device Agreement. Those are just the safety guidelines that we want students to adhere to when they're on the internet, and how to keep care of their device. That would include, we don't want students installing software because that could, it could cause some of the software to not to function anymore. Device, we ask that it be kept in a safe place inside your home if it's not being used. So really, it is not complicated at all. Students who have devices now, unless they are leaving the district, should hang onto the devices over the summer. If they have any issues at all over the course of the summer, place a phone call to the Family Technology Support Center, and they will help you. Let's see, what else? The first graders, when they return in the fall, will do the swap of their iPad for a new laptop. And Paul, that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We're going to take some questions. Before we take some questions, parents, remember you have to use the raise your hand feature. Use the raise your hand feature to ask questions. Before we take some of those questions, I'm going to put out some of the questions to our presenters that I have here. I'll put out the first question. The first question would be to you, Jeff. If we can't answer the questions, let's please make sure that we get contact information. We'll get the information for the parents and get back with them to make sure that we're answering all questions. So the first question that we have is, will there be a virtual classroom next year, meaning with a camera? Jeff, can you answer that question, please?
Yes, I can answer that question. So there's been a lot of talk about that. And actually, let me see here. So our answer to that is based on the students who enroll for full-time remote or distance learning at each school next year, we will be outfitting the appropriate classrooms at those schools with cameras. So they'll be able to do, to reach the students remotely using Google Meet, just as we've handled remote learning this year.
Thank you very much, Jeff.
Yes.
The next question we have, Dr. Don or Ms. Casey Fisher, if either one of you can answer this question. Can I still sign my child up for summer scholars?
Parents and families will need to contact their individual buildings to see if there is capacity at this time.
Okay, so parents, to answer that question, you need to contact whatever school your child goes to or your children attend to see if there is still availability or space. The next question, this is a question for Jeff. Will the students have the same device next school year, meaning the devices that they have now, will they still have those same devices next school year, or will they have to turn them back in, reissue? What's the process with that?
So that's a great question. At the beginning of the year, when they come back, they will continue to use the same device. Now, sometime next year, we are going to have to refresh the software on all of our student devices. And when we do that, we will be collecting devices from the students and issuing them another device. And so the answer is, at the beginning of the school year, they'll continue to use the device they had, but at some point, we're going to swap devices with them, give them another laptop, take their laptop from them, put new software on it, and then recirculate it out to another school.
Thank you, Jeff. That was a great question. Another question we have may be for Don or Dr. Don, my apologies. Dr. Don, Ms. Fisher, one of you can answer the question. Will there be remote learning offered next school year? Will there be remote learning offered next school year?
And I think Mr. Crystal kind of alluded to that. It depends on each school and the students that are doing remote learning. And Jeff, correct me if I said that incorrectly.
So the district will be offering remote learning as an option. And as I said, we will be handling it on a school by school basis based on the number of students that have signed up. And in that classroom, in the appropriate classrooms that have remote students, we will be providing a camera, webcam of some sort, so that we can, so that the teacher can communicate with the remote students. So that, I mean, I'm answering it from the technology standpoint, but it's my understanding that the board is going to make that available as an option, i.e. remote learning for students next year.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Dr. Williams.
Yes.
Another question we have. Safety Cindy, if you can help us with this question, will COVID guidelines still be in place for next school year?
So that is a good question for CDC, and it really, guidelines will be put in place. I mean, we will have guidelines in place, I'm sure. What those specific guidelines are, we don't know the specifics yet, because it certainly depends on where the future takes us, what CDC and Ohio Department of Health roll out as far as their guidelines, because we incorporate certainly what their recommendations are with the local authorities that we have as collaborated partners. So it's an excellent question and remains to be seen, because we don't know what tomorrow will bring or the next few months. But we certainly feel very good about where we've been and very positive about what we have been able to do. And we will be able to navigate this for next year. And we feel very positive that as things become lifted, that we will work with that very quickly to do what we need to do, again, depending upon what that landscape is. So good question, and I'm trying to answer it the best way with wisdom, but it will depend on what those guidelines are from CDC, the state and local, and what our current situation is.
Thank you, Safety Cindy. We have one final question, and then we have a parent that's waiting 2 extra questions. So one final question, and this question will be also for you, Safety Cindy. Do students have to wear masks during summer scholars?
Yes, they do. So they do have to wear masks during summer scholars. The recommendations per CDC, per the local health department, and per our state department has adjusted and reiterated the fact that the schools should maintain their current policies and procedures and safety protocols through the end of their school year, which we are including summer scholars. There are some things that we're looking at as things relax. What does that look like for outdoor use and for situations where students are running around very active in the exercise? So we're certainly keeping abreast of what the recommendations are, but yes, bottom line is students will be expected to wear them during summer scholars when they're in the buildings and outdoors, unless they're exercising. But again, some of that is still evolving with our local health partners.
Thank you very much, Safety Cindy. We have a parent, William, if you can let the parent in. Sibu, you have a question for us. Good evening.
Good evening.
You can go ahead.
I have a question about the summer class because my daughter, she's going to elementary school. So I register her, I think, a morning shift. I don't know, but they have until 2:30 the program. So if she on academic only, she can stay all day until 2:30, or she leave earlier.
So I'm just making sure I understand the question. Your daughter is going to summer scholars. You want to know if she can stay until 2:30 or leave earlier?
Yes.
Okay, so basically, can she leave the program earlier than when the program ends?
But they said academic, choose one of them. and I choose academic. So if I choose that, she can stay until 2:30 or she leave early. Like the program is in two different program or it's the same.
Dr. Don, can you provide some
Yes,
support?
that's a
Thank you.
great question. So our full day schedule, like you just said, the academic block is in the morning and the enrichment block is in the afternoon. And if your daughter only wanted to do the academic block,
Yeah.
which is half day, that's okay. I would really check with your school tomorrow to make sure that all the necessary documentation and the transportation and everything is set up for her to only go the academic block and not the enrichment block, if that's your request. So just check in with the school.
Yes, I just want to make sure, I have to ready someone pick up or something or stay in 2:30, and I have to first prepare everything before they start. That's why.
So yes, if she's getting picked up after the academic block, that's fine. Just make sure the school knows.
But she can stay. If I say she can stay, or she can't do.
Yes, it's your request. So you can, if you want her to stay the full day, which is the academic and the enrichment, was probably that 2:30 end time. That's perfectly fine as well. It's whatever meets the needs of your family.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it doesn't look like we have any more parents with questions or no one with their hand raised. So as we conclude, there are a couple of housekeeping items that I will and reminders that I will put out there for you all. One, we now have a monthly, quarterly parent newsletter. So you can visit the Cincinnati Public Schools website to be able to access and view and read through the newsletter. There's some good things in our quarterly parent newsletter, so strongly encourage all of our parents, community members, guardians to take a look at that. Two, be sure to, at the conclusion of the meeting, grab that survey and answer those few questions so that we know how you all felt, what we can add, what we can do better, what we can improve on, what you all like to hear, some of the input and feedback from you all. Three, I would be remiss if I didn't mention and remind everyone, some of our parents know, but maybe not all of our parents don't know. Our current superintendent, Ms. Laura Mitchell, she won't be with us much longer past the first or second week in June. However, this past board meeting, our Cincinnati Public School Board of Education, they did approve for Ms. Tiana Amat to be our interim superintendent. So that will be our interim superintendent the second week, starting the second week of June. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. So we do have a new interim superintendent that will be taking over Cincinnati Public Schools here in the next week or so. Last, the next parent meeting, the next virtual parent meeting, we will continue to do our virtual parent meetings throughout the summer as well as next school year. So our next parent meeting will be the end of July. Just look for that on the social media, Cincinnati Public Schools social media platforms, as well as on the Cincinnati Public Schools webpage, as well as we'll make sure we send out emails and also text messages. So if we don't have any more questions, we really appreciate you all for coming on, for joining our meeting, making sure that you stay engaged and connected to what's going on in Cincinnati Public Schools. All of the things that we bring on, all of the things, me being a parent champion for the district, everything that we talk about in these parent meetings is directly from feedback that I get from parents. So you all continue to reach out to me, continue to ask questions, continue to stay connected and engaged. And we really appreciate you all joining us tonight. Have a great holiday. Have a great holiday weekend, and enjoy our upcoming Summer Scholars Program, as well as the last day of school tomorrow. Take care. Have a good evening, parents.